Welcome back to the SaaS Playbook, where we unpack how founders and operators build real revenue systems, what breaks as they scale, and what have they learned the hard way so you don't have to. Today's episode is brought to you by Hera Digital, helping founders build predictable sales engines and smarter revenue systems. Comment system and someone will reach out. Today, I'm joined by Melinda Powelson, founder of Match Engine. Melinda runs a demand and matching engine business that connects consumers looking for compliance-heavy services with vetted providers at a serious scale. Melinda, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us, Jenny. Really appreciate your time.
So you've been running the show for a very long time. And when we first connected, Melinda, we actually had something very rare in common. And that is we have experience within the waste management industry, which is a very unsexy industry, if you could agree.
Yes.
But now you've pivoted quite a fair bit. You've been running for this for a very long time, but what was the original spark that made you build a matching engine business instead of a traditional service company?
So the business grew out of a recycling company based here in Denver that my dad started in 1977. So a long, long time ago. And very early on, he built a website in 1997, which was before Google was around. And when they built the website, they started getting inquiries from around the United States for different services, recycling and shredding and other things that they did. And because he was an entrepreneur, he wanted to give those opportunities to other small business owners, which was the very first start of the matching engine that we built. So it's always been about looking for people who have a need, in this case, recycling or shredding, to business owners who are looking to grow their business.
I mean, trying to build a website back in that time, can you imagine how hard that would have been? So kudos to your dad, because
Yes,
there's
thanks.
especially before Google, that's wild to me.
Yes.
That's crazy. Like, I would imagine the computer would be the size of a house at that time.
I think it was probably about half the size of a house, so a little while ago.
And it's crazy because you can control everything on your phone, which is this big now. So
Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
it's nuts. But you mentioned as well the reality of small business ownership, contract, delivery, never really switching off. What have been your biggest level up lessons as a founder over the years?
So the biggest thing I know is that there are a gazillion ideas out there. And businesses don't fail because of lack of ideas. And so you have to pick a few really good ideas and execute them well. And so one time I saw someone talk about if you do this and this and this and this all the way outside, you end up crucified. So what we've done is hone in on a few industries: shredding, electronic recycling, medical waste, and record management, and done those extremely well versus venturing into just anything.
Coming from a waste management experience, we know
Yes.
how heavily regulated things like hazardous waste and private documents are and how to manage that. And when you're not exposed to that industry, you would have no idea what
Right.
that really entails, right? So by really focusing on that component, you've been able to really untap an industry where, one, no one probably cares about it, but two, it's so fruitful because no one else is probably doing it.
Well, yeah, I mean, so it's not sexy, as you said, right? But everybody needs it. So it's a perfect match for everybody needs to shred their documents here in the United States. It's the law. Everything, on these devices now, you need to take care of those because there's so much data on them and you need them securely destroyed. Medical waste, you don't want to throw in the garbage. You want to have that securely destroyed. And you're right, it's very compliance driven and not sexy, but incredibly important to the people who are calling looking for the services.
Mhm. And what sort of really sticks out in that particular model is having it dealt with in a safe manner, disposed of in a safe manner, and also transported in a safe manner.
Yep.
And those kind of things, again, are not sexy, unfortunately, but someone has to do it, right?
It's got to do it, right?
Oh, I think from memory, you actually mentioned that you were a journalist.
I was long ago. Yeah, my business education comes from dinner table, obviously, when you grew up with a dad who's an entrepreneur. And then I did exactly the opposite. And I became an English major and journalist. And I was fortunate to end up in really great a situation in San Diego where I was an investigative reporter. Everything in business is about telling a story, and a lot like a journalist, like what you do on your podcast. So becoming a good storyteller certainly is a attribute in business as well.
probably is a testament to why you're so successful now, Melinda. But I mean, it's a very unique background. Being journalist to now entrepreneur, which probably was the inevitable because being a journalist can only cap you to some degree in terms of creativity. But how do you feel that the journalism background has shaped the way you communicate, sell, tell stories, and build trust in a market where credibility is so important?
Being a good storyteller is important in all aspects of the business because people come to you with questions. And when they call on the phone looking for service, you want to be credible with the answer and, and truthful with what you're doing and making the right match. I'd say, being a journalist helps you gather information really quickly and conceptualize where people are coming from and where they are going. And it's important that it's accurate. And when we have callers who call us looking for solutions, we try very hard to listen to what they're saying and then accurately gauge what they're saying and make a good match to a quality service provider. And so in a way, it's telling a story with every phone call.
I like that. That was very deep there for a second, but I like that. How do you then filter that level of importance and the ability to really translate that down to your staff members who also pick up the phone and sort of diagnose the problem?
Right. Well, that's one of the things that's been unique about us is that we have a lot of data that tells us we've been doing this for a long time. And we have been developing these tools, these AI tools, to help all of our employees who answer calls become better performers. And so we look at using AI to make not to replace jobs, but to help people do their jobs better by listening to what customer intent is, by helping them sell better, from teaching them how to make better matches with every phone call.
I actually really like that because it's almost the perspective of being a good business is almost like being a really good matchmaker, where you're marrying, particularly with what you do, right? So making sure you understand and diagnose the problem well in the first place, and then on the other hand, actually matching them to exactly what they need. And really, if we boil it down, really down to the core, that is essentially what business is in its naked form.
Yes, for sure. Because what people want is to have a customer with a specific need and service them with a quality service provider. And that's what everybody is looking for.
One last question regarding your journalism background. What did you bring from journalism into business that most founders overlook?
I think the thing that is the most important is like understanding the context of where things come from. And so when I was a journalist, I had a really great interview with Jesse Jackson. And Jesse Jackson, when you ask him a question, he gives you like a history lesson and say, it started back in the Civil War. And then he would build upon this and next and that. And so everything comes with a story that leads to where you are today. And that's the same kind of thing with business, because when we've been in a business since 1977, you understand that what recycling started as, when paper shredding became part of it, you understand the laws that propelled the industry to where they are. And as you listen to like the background, it's not about what's happening today that matters, is everything that led up to it. And I think that storytelling and understanding of things and then making sure that you're making the right decisions as you move forward.
And that can apply to any situation, really, inside and outside of business, right? And like you said before, a lot of things that you learn from outside your outside life does essentially translate to business scenarios. Because if I were to really break it down, you are your business, and business is just a form of relationships, really. It's just a fancy word or a fancy wrapper around it. So for people who've never heard of the term matching engine, what are the core mechanics that make a match engine really work?
Well, it's a proprietary tool developed by our CTO a long time ago. And it is a tool that takes a incoming telephone call, matches it with a service provider based on a number of criterias, like do they take shredding leads, do they take recycling leads, do they take medical waste leads. So there's criteria of that. And in a 2.5 minute phone call, somebody can call into our call center. The technology matches the need to the service provider and then passes it on without any real human intervention except for the call, making sure that the customer is getting exactly what they want.
That's really clever. And I love that you noted that that's proprietary because anybody listening to their podcast, I'm like, that's a great idea.
Yes. Well, it is what it is, right? But it's been around for a long time. I mean, we started building this way back in 2004. So, and it gets better all the time.
Yeah. So there is a level of machine learning. But what really stands out is having a business that has had such a long tenure. I feel like Match Engine has such a forward way of thinking in terms of tech adoption, AI adoption. And there is a lot of businesses who've started at roughly the same time, but are super resistant. What would you say to those founders who are very AI or tech resistant?
Yeah, so we look at AI as a piece of the technological or orchestra, not just a single product. So it adds to all the technology that we've already built, and it helps us make everyone a better performer in the company, not as a standalone thing by itself. And I think that is a differentiator for us, is that it's part of the suite, not the single,
Also, you mentioned it before that AI doesn't replace humans. And I think in the past 10 recent episodes that I've hosted, everyone says the exact same thing because for some reason, I don't know at what point in time where people have got it in their mind as though AI is designed to replace humans and maybe in the future. But from a business aspect, it will never replace humans because it cannot synthesize as humans does, even as intelligent as it does get. But I just don't simply think that it really ever was created with the intention to replace people.
I completely agree. It's just designed to make humans better at what we do and make everyone a better performer. And for us, you can't, we have millions of leads in the past, and there's no way that anybody could take the time to look at all the patterns individually. But with a language model, you can analyze that stuff and make really good decisions, so long as you correlate them to real results. And it makes people better, not replace them. And I think there's so much fear around AI replacing people versus making us better at what we do.
Yeah. I think the people who are worried about losing their jobs, it's probably a good kick up the bum to say, hey,
Yes.
you should probably get better then because you will probably get replaced if you don't become a better human,
Yes.
right? So if people are afraid of being replaced, probably just be better employee.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we don't want that. We want the ones that want to improve, right? We all are looking for
Exactly.
self-starters.
Especially it makes such a big difference in a small business setting, right? One person can really be the make or break in terms of the quarter success.
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk about the volume in which you operate at Match Engine because it's pretty crazy, right? Your scale, we're talking 2,000 calls a day. What's the biggest constraint regarding growth right now for you?
For us, it is about definitions. And so the next big vertical that we're tackling is electronics recycling and destruction. And right now, there are a million different ways to say that you should destroy your electronic device. Where, like in document shredding, there's, the shredding, document shredding, and records destruction. And there's three words that describe the industry. And in electronics recycling, the vocabulary is much larger. And once the vocabulary comes down to a few words and becomes systematized, that will help that propel growth in that area. But right now, it's definitions for us, because we attract people on the internet and the funnel is really large rather than in shredding and medical waste, which is super narrow.
So, making sure the language is targeted to exactly what they are looking for. And that just perfectly describes the tech industry as a whole. There's no one word to describe anything. Like it's so broad, and I would call it something different to what you would call it something different, even based per region.
Right.
So that probably would just come down to a lot of learning, a lot of data, right? Which is something that you seem very forefronting with. But I think I do agree. I think that's a really good industry to start targeting because as we sort of progress forward with AI and technology and innovation, there are going to be less and less documents for you to shred, right?
It's no question that the COVID changed the way that people print things out, and digitization is here, but it doesn't mean that the sensitive data isn't there. And you talked about like the size of the computer versus the size of your phone. You think about how much data is on your phone, how much data is on your laptop or tablet. And those things need to be protected at the same level as a piece of paper. But there's not a vocabulary around that yet.
I mean, if you do find some really cornerstone stuff, please let us know, Mel,
I
because I
will.
think the
Yeah.
industry could benefit from that pretty greatly.
Yes.
You've built an internal AI layer in reference to that diagnostic system through the phone calls, essentially being able to improve close rates from something crazy to from 39% to 51%.
Yes.
What did you learn by connecting lead attributes to transcripts at scale?
Right. So it's a language model that looks at customer behavior. When you start to, you can't nobody can pay attention to 2,000 calls a day, right? That's too many for anybody to listen to, but an AI model can listen to those things and then help make suggestions for how to do better closing, how to do better information gathering, how to essentially be a better sales agent. And that's what we talk about when we're chatting, we're not going to be a phone answerer from AI. We're going to use AI to make our human phone agents better.
And what AI does at scale really well, and it probably will continue to do really well, is one, analyze the data, but two, collect the data. Three, give you intelligent business insights so then you can actually improve. And it's a laborious job that no one wants to do, let's be honest. No one wants to sit.
The best example I've heard about it is like a potato kicker, right? So a potato kicker comes, you have an AI, it's been in farming forever. So you have red potatoes and yellow potatoes. And when you get your bag of potatoes, you want only yellow potatoes. And so AI is used to kick out all the red potatoes if you're gathering yellow potatoes. And so this is very similar to that. You like to listen to a bunch of different calls and then kick out the ones that are exceptions.
But it's actually what you do with the data is really important.
Yes. Yeah. When you learn from it. And
Yeah.
you looking for patterns, you're looking for systemization, and you're using that to propel your business rather than a lot of people use AI to try to grow. We're trying to make the most of what's already coming in.
That's a different perception, and I really like that because you're right. Everyone does look at AI for growth, and that's what we do at Hera Digital. So interestingly, you say that, but there is one last question for you,
Sure.
Melinda, before we wrap up. For founders building in an unsexy industry,
Yes.
compliance, waste destruction, logistics, what's your advice for winning when the product isn't naturally glamorous?
I think it's sincerity. If you are sincere about solving a problem, any problem, and you are committed to doing it with quality and integrity, you can solve any problem that way. But I would say the biggest thing is being sincere about what you do in any industry.
But funny thing is pretty much all the founders on here say the exact same thing is make sure you actually have one to serve first and foremost.
Right.
Then you will have, judging by your experience, Mel, then you will have a long lasting business.
Right. Yeah, listen to customers. I mean, at the end of the day, it's customers that we're all serving. And if you serve them with integrity and sincerity and being in service, I think you have a great business.
A long lasting business.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Belinda, thank you so much. This has been one of those conversations that's a masterclass in building a real engine, demand generation, matching, attribution, and using AI to actually improve close rates, not just generate dashboards. But if you're listening and you want to learn more about Melinda's work at Match Engine or the broader network that Melinda controls and within her ecosystem, we'll link everything you need to know down in the show notes. But in the meantime, keep building meaningfully.
Thanks so much, Jenny. Really appreciate your time. Really nice.